We are in a transition between world orders, and we think 4 furies of geopolitics will determine the shape of things to come. In this third of our 4 furies video series, I'll discuss looming energy transitions. First, a look back. The geopolitics of energy was upended over the last 5 years as US shale production, enabled by hydraulic fracturing or fracking, shifted the balance of global supply from the Middle East to North America. Lower prices deprived traditional exporters of vast revenues and depleted current and anticipated national savings. OPEC's belated return to supply management, meanwhile, has helped put a floor under oil prices, but also played to the strengths of the flexible US industry. With many companies profitable above $50 a barrel, US supply growth alone in 2018 will offset a significant proportion of OPEC's actions. The US is also an increasingly significant crude oil and natural gas exporter, even if it will not displace traditional global suppliers anytime soon. But as a result, the global supply overhang will take longer to work through. Oil markets will eventually rebalance, but petrostates have long-term problems as well. One is the rapid rise of electric vehicles, or EVs. EVs are currently just 1% of global vehicle stock, but adoption is growing at double digits annually. Strong policy support is clearly a major factor in EV adoption. This is why it was nearly 20% of new car sales in Norway last year, which plans to end the sale of purely petrol-based vehicles by 2025, while it was less than 1% in the UK or Germany. India and China are also the most likely catalysts for rapid adoption. Both have announced plans to phase out petrol vehicles by 2030 and 2040 respectively. EV adoption will take a bite out of oil demand as transport shifts towards the electric grid. And fairly aggressive estimates based on continued policy support and falling electric vehicle prices may reduce anticipated oil demand growth by about half over the next 10 to 20 years, bringing forward the feared date of peak demand. Electric vehicle adoption also has employment effects. There are not great estimates about unemployment impacts under different transport electrification scenarios, but extrapolating from available studies suggests that sectors related to petrol vehicle maintenance and service, petrol station attendants, parts manufacturers, mechanics, could experience job losses of up to 25%. And if we look at the US, EU, and Japan, major vehicle exporters, this could amount to nearly 3 million jobs. And the automotive sector in each of these areas is a major component of overall industrial output, 15% in Japan, 9% in the US. Now, most studies estimate that these jobs would be offset by employment gains elsewhere, including areas like battery manufacturing, charging station construction, expanded consumer services. But one lesson of populist politics is that aggregate wins are not enough. The key issue is who wins and where they vote. Widespread EV adoption also brings new cyber and supply chain risks as companies race for minerals critical to battery manufacturing, some of which are concentrated in high political risk countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo and Bolivia. And while sheer resource availability is not projected to be an issue, supply chain risks are potentially more significant. Now, second, oil producers face a broader transformation of energy systems powered by rapidly falling costs and the deployment of renewable power. Much of this is driven by increasingly urgent concerns about climate change. In the developed world, solar photovoltaic or PV and onshore wind are anticipated to be cheaper than new coal and cost competitive with natural gas power within the next 5 years. China is independently pursuing the largest renewable energy transformation globally. And even certain developing countries, some renewable energy projects are approaching cost competitiveness with fossil fuels. In India, for example, solar PV projects are already cost competitive with natural gas generation, although still substantially more expensive than coal. As a result, solar power installed capacity has increased 50% annual average growth over the last 10 years. It's growing by 80% annually in South America, 75% annually in India, and even 40% annually in sub-Saharan Africa. Wind, meanwhile, has 20% annual average growth, including 60% annual average growth in China, and is doubling every year in Mexico. Vehicle electrification and renewable power are set to shape the global energy system in the coming years and dramatically change the competitive landscape for business.